Hi everybody, welcome back to Tunes Reviews. Today we are going to be doing a tag video, which is something that I hardly participate in, but I got to thinking and I was like, I want to create a tag video that has a little bit more pop culture reference and a little bit more real life experiences attached to it. So this will be called the Holy Trinity Tag, and it is based on 3 fragrances that have left a lasting impression on you in your arsenal, and we're going to go through some subcategories for each fragrance. The first category for each fragrance will be a fictional character that you could see would be rocking this fragrance, wearing this fragrance, whether if it's video games or movies or a television series or manga or whatever it is that you want to add as a fictional character that you could see sporting the fragrance that you have this lasting impression with. The second category is bringing it and reeling it in back to life, and I want you to share the most significant memory with the fragrance that left a lasting impression. The third category is a concert that you would wear this particular fragrance to. The fifth category would be a trip that you would take this fragrance on, whether if it's, you're going to Cabo or you're going to California or whatever it is. What is this fragrance going to mean for you when you take this fragrance across country or international or whatever the case may be? The sixth category is a song in particular that could represent what the fragrance is. And the final category is this fragrance, as long as it is not discontinued or, incredibly difficult to find, always going to have a place on your shelf? So starting out for me, I'm going to go with the House of Slumber House, which is one of my all-time favorite indie niche categories of fragrance. It is a house that I have a lot of connection with, and it's one of the first, I think it was indie when I first started, and I don't know if it's considered indie or indie niche hybrid or whatever at this point, but whatever you consider it, because it could be niche or indie. I personally think that it's indie because it's a much more difficult house to obtain and get your hands on, and it's very, turbulent for as far as when you can get your hands on it, etc., etc. But either way, the fragrance that I'll be discussing is Slumber House Back. Okay, so Back is, wow. This is a tobacco-based fragrance. It's very, very delicious. My lasting memory with this fragrance, I'm gonna get it out of the way now, is that it was the last fragrance review that my best friend Benjamin and I had done together before we started kind of venturing off and just doing music videos that we were hired for or doing the whole movie thing. And you can see that my video up on YouTube actually has his voice in the beginning, and it really reminds me of that time, that summer, because I was wearing this fragrance a lot in that summer when we were actually shooting a feature film. And it's a great memory that I have with Ben because we had a lot of fun making that review as well. A character that I could see wearing this fragrance, if you've never tried Back, it's a very in-your-face, it's not subtle, it's very true to life pipe tobacco. It's got some kind of like asphalt qualities to it. It's got some booziness to it. It really reminds me of something the man with no name would wear from the Spaghetti Western trilogy with Clint Eastwood. A concert that I would wear this fragrance to would be something that's like a little bit more on the low, a little bit more of an indie band. I could totally see like going to a Sufjan Stevens concert wearing this, a little bit more eccentric crowd. I don't think I'd wear this to something like Kendrick Lamar or something like that, but definitely something that's a little bit more on the low and more of an indie fan base. And yeah, definitely something that has like more of an acoustic atmosphere aesthetic to it, I think, with maybe like some synth going on or something like that. It really reminds me of a very minimalist kind of concert. I would wear Back to Maine. Like, I'm not sure how familiar some of you are with Maine, but you just got forests galore. It's beautiful, lots of nature, lots of hiking. And for whatever reason, this fragrance really reminds me of the high heat and kind of being outdoors. So if I was to go to like Bar Harbor and go exploring in that realm of Maine, I think I would bring this along with me. Back, as far as an actual song, reminds me of Death Grip's Get Got. And I know that that is like way off in comparison to what I described as the concert that I would wear it to. But Death Grips is an experimental group that's like rap and they have like electronic involved, and they have heavy drums and guitars. Sometimes it's just like they're all over the place. They're crazy. And this fragrance kind of reminds me of that because it's so unapologetic about its structure. And I could definitely see how this fragrance would be correlated to that particular song. Back will always have a place on my shelf. I use this very sparingly. It's something that I wear probably a couple times a year, just because it's not something that I ever really want to run out of. You know, that and Slumber House Keist are kind of in the same realm and kind of remind me of the same stuff. But Back is definitely always going to have a place in my heart as far as nostalgic value and the memories that are attached to it. And it really reminds me of kind of kickstarting that whole thought process of getting more involved in filming and the friendship that we cultivated with the team that we've made over the last 4 years. Next up is Angelique Noir by Guerlain. Yeah. Oh boy. Really good. My memory attached to Angelique Noir is actually pretty interesting. Maybe not to some, but for me it is. I found Angelique Noir was probably it was my first step in my introduction into really wearing more floral type fragrances. And I discovered it probably, I guess, 5 or 6 years ago. And at the time I was kind of in this metamorphosis realm of like, you know, not knowing what exactly I wanted to do and the path that I wanted to take for my future. And I was going to university that I didn't like. And when I'd come home, I played a lot of Borderlands 2, and I was on a kick of watching quite a bit of movies at the time. I mean, I watch movies all the time anyways, but this fragrance I would wear when I was by myself and I was just, you know, escaping. So it's escapism a little bit. And it really reminds me of the add-on for Borderlands 2, Tiny Tina's Attack on Dragon Keep. And I know that that's super nerdy, but I would wear this whenever I played that game. I would wear this, especially because, again, this was my introduction to floral fragrances, and being comfortable with wearing it and being just so in love with this fragrance that I wore it a lot while I was by myself to kind of get a feel of how I would feel about wearing it outside of my residence and in the general public. And I think at the time I was probably still a little conflicted on whether or not I had enough confidence on wearing floral fragrances, being a man and all that. And all that shit's out the window now, but it's definitely a fragrance that reminds me of kind of me just reflecting and a little bit of escapism. That game is incredibly important to me and my mental health, to be honest with you. You know, I've got a Borderlands tattoo and everything on my back, and it reminds me of some of the great films that came out that year too, like Fury and Whiplash and a few other Nocturnal, or not, what was it? Not that. Oh shit, what was it? Nightcrawler. So Nightcrawler and Fury and Whiplash and Borderlands 2, and just kind of like being contemplative in my own space and getting healthy mentally and preparing myself for what my next move would be. A fictional character that I could see wearing Angelique Noir, again, I'm gonna go with my Borderlands 2 concept would be Maya from Borderlands 2. She's a siren. She's super badass. She kicks a lot of ass. And I could see her smelling like Angelique Noir. I actually wore Angelique Noir to quite a few concerts I've gone to. I think the big one was probably the 1975. It was, I think, the first concert. No, it was the first concert that me and my fiance went to. So I have a lot of good memories attached to experiencing that for the first time with her. And Angelique Noir was the beauty that I went with for the night. I would pack Angelique Noir on a trip to Portland, Oregon. Portland, Oregon is a place that my fiance and I have kind of romanticized and ending up in someday, potentially, you know, moving there and having a permanent residence even for a few years. So maybe not permanent, but, you know, living there for a few years. And I think the eccentric lifestyle there and the open-mindedness and self-awareness there kind of lends itself to what this fragrance can kind of represent with a man wearing. And I absolutely freaking adore the scent, and I wear it pretty much any chance I get, but I could really see myself when we take that trip to kind of scout and see where we could potentially live, I would probably bring this along with me. The song that I could definitely see kind of representing this particular fragrance is Phantogram's When I'm Small. Angelique Noir is always going to have a place in my collection. It's probably, you know, it's at least tied with Tonka Imperial for my favorite Guerlain fragrance, and both of them mean so much to me. They're two of my favorite fragrances of all time in my top 10. Fragrances that I reach for on a very regular basis. Fragrances I've gone through multiple bottles of. And yeah, this is always going to be in the collection. This is really, truly a part of who I am at this point as far as the nostalgic value and the memories, and I want to continue to make memories with this fragrance as well. The third and final installment of the Holy Trinity fragrances would be this guy right here, Royal Oud by Creed. Royal Oud, again, is really just a part of my self-discovery. I was really stumbling and fumbling around in my own personal navigation of who I was and what I wanted to be, and I found this fragrance at the age of 23 or 22 or 23, and I'm about to turn 30 here in February. So I think having a lot of I was getting a lot of insight into who I wanted to become, and this fragrance became a part of that and the image that I wanted to have. Royal Oud certainly reminds me of my first apartment that I had on my own. Reminds me of all my friends coming together and just having like video game nights and getting coffee together. Reminds me of my first real inkling into what I wanted to do for a profession, you know, going into the whole concept of being a creative and trying to venture off into, actually really when I first made my first steps to making my very first short film, which isn't very good. They never are usually. But yeah, it really reminds me of kind of transforming from boy to man. A fictional character that I feel like would wear Creed Royal Oud would definitely be probably Bruce Wayne. I'm gonna go with Bruce Wayne. It's rich, it's, you know, it's minimalist, but it has a lot of depth at the same time. It smells expensive. It smells kind of like a middle-aged, rich person. It's very confident in what it is, and I could just picture someone like Bruce Wayne rocking Creed's Royal Oud and doing it very well. It reminds me of a very well-kept man dressed in a suit, going to like a cocktail party type scenario. I wore Creed's Royal Oud to the Paramore and Foster the People concert that I went to with my fiance, I think 3 years ago. Foster the People was my favorite band, and I really listened to a lot of Foster the People throughout the years, and really started probably a couple years or a year before I was wearing and rocking Royal Oud. And I really love that band, and I wore my favorite cologne to go see my favorite band, so I would definitely wear Creed's Royal Oud again when I get to see them again after this pandemic fucks right off. I would wear Creed's Royal Oud when I finally get the go-ahead to take off to LA. I think it'll be the fragrance that I wear when I get that lovely invitation to come and have a meeting about making a big film with a big production. So that will be this guy right here. When I go to travel to LA for the first time for business-related activities, for, you know, a step further into the future of filmmaking, this will be it. Now, contrary to the fact that this fragrance totally reminds me of Foster the People, I would go with Lorde Team as far as the song that it reminds me of. At the time, I was definitely going out quite a bit more, bar hopping, whatever, and that song had just come out, and I absolutely loved it. I still love it. It is it's a song that I absolutely adore, and I kind of really relate that song to that whole experience of like 2 years of kind of like, you know, navigating my whole existence. And of course, that's when I wore Royal Oud quite a bit. I wear it a ton still. I've gone, through like 4 or 5 bottles of this, but it's something that I don't wear as much now. But when I first got it, I wore a ton of it, and Lorde's team is definitely something that I correlate with Royal Oud. Yeah, so this guy is like my favorite fragrance of all time, and it's always gonna have a place on my shelf. It's as simple as that. The same could be said for Angelique Noir, and these two are like just so heavily ingrained in my personality and a lot of those experiences of metamorphosis and transitioning throughout life. And back is a little less so, but I definitely think that all 3 of these are definitely going to have a place in my wardrobe for years and years and years to come until they're no longer available. So I would like to tag a couple people, and I hope that they are willing and excited to participate. So first and foremost, I would like to tag Boo from Moody Boo Reviews. I absolutely love her style. I love how she reviews. It's very old school. We are both cut from the same cloth from the old school reviewing realm, and I just love her taste and love how introspective she becomes. And next, I would like to tag Ashton from Gensense. He is one of my best friends in the whole fragrance realm, and we're gonna get together soon. This COVID crap, bye. I can't wait to have whiskey with Ashton, and I love Ashton's taste as well, and I want to see what he has to come up with some of these questions. And finally, I would like to see what George from the Fragrance Apprentice has to say for himself with some of these pop culture references. I know he's incredibly busy. I know you're busy, George. But if you find the time to do this tag, I would love to see your thoughts. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoy the tags to come. And yeah, I hope everyone has a bitchin' new year, because this last one sucked big time. Just stay sane, All right. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.